This is our instant no-dig veggie garden. I thought I'd start out with the finished garden. This is just 10 weeks after we started it, and you can see we have tomatoes on the left there, as well as some sweet corn, some beans. I'm just planting some melon plants here. Pretty much everything you see here we grew ourselves from seed. Okay, we are now back at the beginning. This is where we are going to put our veggie garden. Ideally, you want to put this in the sunniest place you have, as you can always create shade later if you need it. The trees here do cast some shade in the morning and evenings, but it's a nice flat spot, so I'm going to use this. I'm just grabbing some sticks here to mark out the rows. I'm going to make 3 rows with pathways in between. I'll make each row around 120 centimeters or 4 foot wide. The reason for this is I want to be able to reach into the middle of each row from either side. The pathways I mark out at 60 centimeters or 2 foot. I'm laying out sheets of cardboard straight over the top of the grass. I'm overlapping the cardboard as I don't want any gaps for the weeds or the grass to be able to get through. I'm just using cardboard boxes I happen to have on hand, but the best place to get cardboard is a bike shop as they have much larger sheets, so it's easier to work with. I always use brown cardboard, which is obviously made from trees, so it just rots down eventually into the soil. I tend to avoid white cardboard or coloured writing just because of the chemicals used. Black print is typically made with vegetable dye, so it won't cause any problems. I'm laying this over grass, but you could lay it directly over weeds too. If you have particularly hardy or invasive weeds, you could just double up on the cardboard to make sure that they don't get through. Got this lot from the local dump. Pretty reasonable price actually. I've got 3 cubic meters of the compost. Just it's what people are throwing out, you know, from hedge trimmings and food waste and stuff. And then I've got another load of bark which I'll put in between the rows. It's a lot to shift. If you can't get compost from your local dump, you could buy this from a landscaping supply store, or you could of course make your own by layering greens and browns and letting them break down over several months. But I was keen to get started and I wanted to have something planted as soon as possible. I have 3 cubic meters or 10 cubic feet of compost here. If you've got the space, I'd recommend getting more though. Within a few months I got another delivery and I ended up doubling the size of this garden. I'm going to use wood chip at the end of the rows. If you wanted a neater look, you could box the whole thing in with wooden sides. I've done this in the past and it works fine, but I did find that snails and slugs will use the wood as their home. I'm raking this to get the compost flat and even, ready for planting. I'm aiming to get the compost about 6 inches deep over the cardboard. As you can see, I'm walking on the beds. This isn't going to cause any issues or compress the soil too much. You actually want the soil to be compressed down a little bit, and that way it's easier for plants to have something firm to root into.
What's going on here then?
Yeah, getting some beds in, eh? I'm using wood chip from a local landscape company for the pathways. I would usually just order from an arborist or a tree surgeon, as this is the cheapest way. The local guys had too many people on their list though, so I couldn't use them this time. If you live in the US, the UK or Australia, it's worth looking to see if chip drop operate in your area. I'm spacing these plants out at 30 centimetres or 1 foot, so you can fit 3 rows into the bed. I use this spacing on pretty much all plants. It's fairly close, but there's a decent amount of nutrition in this compost. I will occasionally bring it down to just 2 rows for bigger plants such as tomatoes, courgettes or potatoes. I'm making the holes deeper than the roots of the plants so that the plants end up sitting just below the level of the compost. I find this makes watering really easily. Eventually the hole will just fill in over time, and this is fine. It certainly doesn't rot the stems of the plant. In fact, it makes the plants stronger and more stable as they tend to send down new roots. I think I'll leave it there for now. It's looking alright, looking pretty good. I've got so there's a couple of paths there. Paths are just a wood mulch. Point of that is that it eventually breaks down, it gives nutrients to the soil, and it's just useful to walk on so your feet don't get covered in compost. I've still got some wood mulch left, so I'm going to use that around the edges just to stop the grass kind of and the weeds bleeding into the patches. But it's yeah, it should be alright. Got a few things planted already, a bit more to go in. Got quite a bit more space actually. That one's on the far side's empty, so yeah, we should be able to grow a decent amount of food there. And yeah, and hopefully in future years I'll be able to make my own compost and just keep topping it up rather than buying it. But yeah, pretty happy with that. This is our veggie patch, just 6 weeks on. We have a few lettuces coming on and some beetroot leaves here, just enough for a salad. Well, I hope this gives you a few ideas on how to make your own instant veggie garden. Thanks so much for watching.